the information becomes available. Lots going on out here. Republicans, this is the whole leadership apparatus of the Republican National Committee is here, and we'll see what happens. A little spring in their step about the midterms based on the great economy, except the disaster that's going on in Virginia, which is basically, people are just, it's breathtaking what the Spanberger and the trifecta of communist Democrats have done in Virginia in a week. What they have put out there is just like, it's like Mad Magazine. I mean, you read this stuff, it's like, you got to be kidding. And Spanberger's going to sign them all. Oh, she's a moderate affordability. They're just going to raise your taxes. She's going to get rid of right to work. She's going to destroy jobs in the state. They don't care. She's running for president, vice president. It is just insanity. Incredible what they've done. This is what you do. You give Democrats total power. You know, this is what you get. It's just 100 years of Virginia culture and laws rolled back in 3 days like that. Boom. And they're going to get rid of right to work. That's what they're trying to do. That's going to destroy more jobs, hurt more affordability, all that. This segment coming up, I've got Mark Mix on, National Right to Work Committee. Mark, you know, it's just simple. Spanberger, she says one thing, she does another. She's going to be under tremendous pressure by the unions, by her conferences, by the state senators, by the liberals, nationally. Her consultants are going to go to her like, you can't get nominated, you can't be VP, you got to get rid of right to work. And they want, the reason why they do this is they don't care about jobs. They just want more money and more power, Mark. And so they're going to destroy the opportunity of growth in Virginia in one fell swoop. Mark Mix joining us, president of the National Right to Work Committee. Thanks for being with us, Mark.
John, they're going to try. They are going to try. There's no question about that. Whether they succeed is up to us, and it's up to you and your listeners and Virginians to rally against this operation and this grab for more power and more money, as you stated. You know, it really is about money and power, and unfortunately, you know, one generation, one election cycle can turn a state around, but we've got to be vigilant. And frankly, you know, we can't give up. We got to continue to fight. And so I was watching the last segment with Grover, and, you know, the fact that Grover Norquist is in the fight over the tax issues, to your point, I mean, she talks about affordability, but yet they're going to tax everything that moves in Virginia. Anything that gets delivered to your front door, any food you eat, they're going to double the tax on the food you eat if you get it delivered. I mean, it's just outrageous, the agenda they have. But, you know, maybe it's appropriate that you're in California right now, because that may be the East Coast California coming up if they succeed. But we've got to fight, and we're going to fight. And with your help and the help of literally thousands and thousands of Virginians, we can make a difference. And, you know, the one part about it is the legislative session is not the end of it. Elections have consequences. The consequences we're reaping right now, perhaps, as they get through this 60-day session in Virginia. We'll see what happens, but we've got to fight. I mean, we can't give up. That's for sure.
Mark Mix with us. And a lot of people say, well, what can we do? It's action, action, action. You know, we can sit around on social media, we can complain, but the Right to Work Committee has put together something that you can do right now. And we're going to have Coleman put this up on the screen here. All you have to do is sign your petition. Go to Virginia, spell it out, VirginiaRightToWork.com. VirginiaRightToWork.com. If everybody in Virginia listening to me right now, just write this down and do it as soon as we get off the air. Just go to VirginiaRightToWork.com. Fill out their petition there. The more that we get, the more pressure we're going to put on Governor Spanberger. You know, if we can deliver tens of thousands of petitions of Virginians, we already took a poll this past. The Right to Work in Virginia has public sentiment. It got 81% of the on the survey. People support it. Getting rid of it, unpopular. Nobody wants to do it. But the thing is, you got to do something. And a lot of times, you know, we get on here, we say, do this, do that. This is all you got to do. If you live in Virginia, if you live in Vermont, you know, pray for us. If you live in Virginia, go to VirginiaRightToWork.com, VirginiaRightToWork.com. Sign the petition now so we can deliver tens of thousands and dump them on Spanberger's desk when this comes up and she's got to make a decision on it. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, John. That's the secret, and we'll make it easy for you. You get on there, you sign up. We'll deliver that petition. Make sure that Spanberger gets it. Make sure your House of Delegates member gets it, and your state senator gets it. We've got to go through all the processes. They've got to win at every level. They've got to win at the committee level. They got to win on the floor. Then they got to go to committee. Then they got to win on the floor. And if there's a change, they got to win in conference committee. Then they got to give it to the governor, and they got to win there. We only have to win in one place. And if we can create the pressure and win in one place, no matter where it is, we can stop them from doing this. And John, I think as the momentum builds, and as you talk about, I mean, people are starting to hear from right to work Virginians right now in the legislature. I was down in Richmond yesterday. There are people. There's a movement growing. People are talking about right to work. I think Jill Biden's aide on Fox News yesterday was talking about how they're going to stop. She's not going to repeal Virginia's right to work law. We shouldn't believe anything that Joe Biden administration says, but I'll take him at his word that they're getting pressure and they realize that. And pressure is the only thing that changes a politician's mind. I mean, there are those that are automatically on one side or the other. There's those for freedom and liberty, and you can't break that. There are those for socialism and collectivism. You can't break that. But there is a group in the middle that literally have their finger in the air about how the wind blows. And it's up to us to create that wind. And they can do that at virginiarighttowork.com by signing that petition so we can deliver it for them.
Mark, this disaster that's going on is beyond just this right to work thing. Because if this passes along with the taxes, you just heard Grover, along with the breathtaking laws and new taxes they passed in 3 days, it's incredible. Who would ever go there? Like, what business would, they talk about affordability. If you're a business, like, I got to be honest, we were looking at another radio station in Virginia and we're like, why would we do that? I mean, why would we invest more money in a state that wants to tax everything, make it more difficult to do business, put more regulations on you, increase your taxes, and then like steal your money in every possible way that they can, up to including they want to raise your taxes so they can have a fund, forget this, personal, senior, and daycare centers. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. John, you're following a lot closer than I am, but I'm scared about everything they're trying to do. Not only is the right to work potentially in jeopardy, and we got to fight that, but I think the one thing that's probably working its way through the process, and you heard the Senate Majority Leader, Scott Somerville, talk about this. He said, we're going to unionize 700,000 government employees in Virginia. And basically that particular policy is a policy that states across the country are trying to get out of. And yet Virginia is running headlong into unionizing government sector employees at the town, city, county, state level, all of our university systems. They're trying to unionize all of it. And back to what you said at the intro, John, it's about power and it's about money. And that money translates into politics, as you and Grover talked about as well. But it's not the only solution. Government money's a lot, but it's not everything. And people's voices are what's the most important. And sending a message to your state legislator, to the state senator, to your governor is the most important thing you can do. And it's easy to do, as John mentioned.
Virginia, go to virginiarighttowork.com, virginiarighttowork.com. Sign the petition there if you live in Virginia. Mark, it's incredible. 700,000, it's hard to even believe, there's 700,000 government employees, whether it's state or local, in Virginia, 700,000. And now they want to unionize that, which is insane in and of itself. But what is that? What are the ramifications? People say, oh yeah, government, so they get union, better benefits, it's all good. What are the ramifications of that, Mark?
Well, costs to the taxpayer, property tax costs, regular income tax costs. The cost of government will increase dramatically. I mean, you see it in Illinois, California, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island. Those states that are the deepest into the pool, the deep end of the pool when it comes to unionization of government employees are in the worst financial shape. And Virginia is following that course, even though they're doing it blindly. Franklin Roosevelt was on the right side of this issue, John. He said it was unthinkable that you would unionize government employees because the model can't work there. If you're negotiating with taxpayers, and the union's threat is they will withhold government services. That can't work. It happens. I mean, people say, oh, they can't strike, it'll be illegal. Well, look at the public sector strikes that are going on right now in the country, like Chicago. It's just incredible what's happening there. And that's because union officials have been granted this unique power to force themselves in between the relationship of taxpayers and elected officials. There's someone in the middle, and it's a union. And this bill that they've introduced is actually soup to nuts when it comes to union power. It actually articulates binding arbitration as an impasse resolution, meaning one side's going to get their way, the other side's not. And usually in these situations, the side that gets their way is the union power. And John, we've talked about this before. The idea of unionization was to balance the power of the employer over the employee, to create a, quote, platform where there was a way you could talk to each other. And that was because it was the premise was that unionization was the only way you could stop the abuse in the workplace. The long hours, whatever they used to say it was that we had to have unions. Well, if that theory is true, if that premise is true, then the most dangerous place and the worst place to work in America today is government, because about 32% of all government employees are unionized. And it's not because they're demanding to stop the abuse of government employment. It's because it's about power and money. You get back to that equation, and that's what this is all about. And we got to fight against it, for sure.
Well, it's just another way for the union coffers to fill up their bank account with cash, because they confiscate now the money. Now they'll confiscate it from state and municipal workers at any level in a commonwealth like Virginia. They'll just suck the money out of your check, and then that money goes right back to the Democrats, because that's all they donate to. The whole thing's a scam, and it's taxpayer dollars. So it's like when you have forced unionization of a government worker, right? That is our taxpayers' dollars going directly to fund the unions, because we're paying for them, and then the unions turn around and fund the Democrats because they don't give any money to Republicans. So basically, I'm giving my tax money in Virginia to left-wing Democrat candidates, because that's where it ends up funneling itself back. So it's like what do they call it? Like a wash, like money laundering.
It's a vicious cycle is what it is. Yeah, it's a spiral, Josh. And what's interesting about this, back in 1993, the Virginia legislature passed a law that said would prohibit localities and unions from negotiating with each other over the terms and conditions of employment. You know who signed that bill? Doug Wilder signed that bill. He recognized the power that these unions would have over government employees if they could get this power that Abigail Spanberger and Scott Somerville are talking about right now. And I think that's really what they want. If there was one objective they would get out of this legislative session, notwithstanding all the taxes that you've already talked about, but getting government unionization through and mandating that localities bargain with unions over terms and conditions of government employment is why really the big prize. I mean, right to work obviously is important. No question about that. We got to stop that. But both these bills, both these policies they're talking about are dangerous, not only to taxpayers, but to economic opportunity in the Commonwealth. And there's an easy way to fight it. You got to get involved. You got to get off the sidelines. You got to send that petition. You got to go to that website, and you got to and when you see one of your politicians at the grocery store, you got to talk to them about it and say, hey, this doesn't make any sense. And so that's the only way we're going to change this.
Well, listen, if you live in Virginia and you want a job, if she signs this bill, if Spanberger gets rid of right to work, the jobs are going to dry up in Virginia. It's as simple as that. You're going to have to move, because no company is going to go there with high taxes that they didn't have, and now no right to work. Nobody's going to relocate there ever, when you can go to North Carolina, South Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, all on the border of Virginia, all except for Maryland. Nobody's going to go there. And so you're not going to be able to get any jobs. It is the number one job growth machine that Virginia had for all this time, is that they protected right to work. And so they would get these new companies to come in and hire people at good wages. That's going to go away, Mark, like that. It's gone. If she signs this.
And that's why we have to fight, John. That's why we have to fight. It's about keeping your children in Virginia, having gainful employment here, growth opportunities. I mean, that's what it's about. And look, there are lots of different policy implications of what they're trying to do, and all of them militate in favor of, hey, I don't want to go to Virginia anymore. CNBC ranked Virginia number one 3 times in the last 6 years because of the policies that include lower taxes, lower energy costs, right to work. I mean, those pieces of the economic model are a really important part of creating opportunities, creating jobs, increasing investment, attracting companies to the Commonwealth. I mean, Governor Youngkin talked about it. Governor Northam talked about it. Well, he didn't talk about it that much. Governor Spanberger's talked about, we got to continue to have a pro-business environment. But allowing a private party like organized labor to dictate terms and conditions of employment, not only to government, but to private sector industry, that's not really anything on the list that says, yeah, I'm interested in Virginia.
That's insane. And I tell you the other thing, Mark, is, we own a lot of stations and businesses in West Virginia. And West Virginia had a brain drain. This is like real. And Governor Morrissey and the Republicans there have recognized it, is that you grow up in West Virginia, beautiful state, go to West Virginia University, and then you graduate, you leave the state because there's no opportunity. And so all of the bright young people were leaving West Virginia. So they had to change things in order to get investment in there, get jobs in there. So when your children graduated from college or from high school with a trade, they stayed in West Virginia. That has always been a cornerstone of Virginia. You raise your family there, you send them, they have great college, you send them to school, and then they stay there. They get jobs there and stay there, or maybe they're in Northern Virginia or they're in Hampton Roads, but they stay there. Now what you're going to find is what you just said. You're going to have graduate flight because there's no future there, and they're going to go to the Carolinas, they're going to hopefully go to West Virginia, they're going to go somewhere else, but they're not going to stay. And this is the result of what this policy is going to bring, which will hurt families' ability to stay around each other. This is another ramification, unintended consequence of what they're going to do, Mark.
Yeah, John, and you look at the census data and the population migration from California and New York to the right to work states. I mean, right to work states, I think, have in the last decade had like 5 or 10% greater in-migration. And I think U-Haul did a study. I mean, we talked about this before, but the cost of getting a U-Haul truck in California to go elsewhere is double the cost of getting a U-Haul truck elsewhere to go to California. That's because all the U-Haul trucks, it's scarcity, John, supply and demand, and it causes the price of moving vans to go up, for goodness sakes. And people are moving out of California because of the policies. And one of the policies is the dramatic power of organized labor over the workforce, both government and the private sector, in regulating how much you have to pay a worker at a fast food store with a commissar, a group of, it's like a board that Governor Gavin Newsom created that basically says, okay, this is how you're going to run your business if you're a fast food part of a franchisee or something. I mean, 10,000 jobs were lost just like that when that board was convened and they raised the price and the cost. And, from affordability standpoint, John, everyone knows that if you increase the cost of doing business, that prices aren't affected by that at all. I mean, clearly, prices don't have any impact on the cost of doing business, right?
Crazy.
That's sarcasm. I don't know if we're on the radio. I have to admit that that's sarcasm.
Well, you know what? You nailed it. And but what you said earlier is true. We have so many different opportunities in order to defeat this at many different levels. We just got to make one of them work. But action, action, action. Talk is cheap. We're asking everybody, if you're listening to me or watching us, or you're online or anything, and you live in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we really want you to take 5 minutes and go to Virginia, spell it out, VirginiaRightToWork.com, VirginiaRightToWork.com. Fill the petition out, and Mark Mix and his team will take it from there. They'll give it to your House member, they'll give it to your state Senate member, they'll give it to the governor's office, and then your voice matters. We have to show Governor Spanberger that the support in Virginia for right to work is massive. It's the right thing to do to save jobs and get job growth and stop the simple confiscation of union dues out of your check when you don't want to belong to that particular union. And if you do, more power to you. You have the choice, Mark. It's all about you making the choice. And the other thing I have to say every time you're on is if you're joining a union voluntarily, that union, that leadership is now accountable to you. If you're forced to join it through confiscation, they don't give a rat's tail what you say because they're just taking your money. They don't care what you say. They're going to do whatever they want. You're going to hold them accountable. Therefore, the actual union you join will be more effective on your behalf. Mark, that is so plain and simple. I don't see why anybody doesn't understand that.
You're right, John. I can't put it any better. So thank you for that. Your monologue was better than mine. So keep at it. You're for freedom and liberty and economic growth, and Virginians should be too. So, and they can participate in this fight by doing what you asked, by going to virginiarighttowork.com.